Hello everyone and welcome back. Now today we're doing something a little different. We are going basically behind the scenes of Bitcoin, if you like. I think that's the best way I can think of to put it. Because you might wonder where Bitcoin actually comes from. You've probably heard of Bitcoin mining. You might know a little bit about that process. But I wouldn't blame you if it was all a bit of a mystery. It is a pretty complicated thing to get your head around. But fortunately, we have an expert with us today who is going to explain the process to us, tell us some of the ins and outs of the Bitcoin mining industry, and just generally shed a little bit of light on what I think you'll find is an absolutely fascinating subject. So, I'm talking with Emmanuel Montero, who is the CEO of Terahash Solutions. We are in his office here in Dubai, of all places. So, Emmanuel, thanks for having us along to talk today. And Emmanuel and I first met at the Bitcoin conference in Amsterdam.
Yes, we did. It was a great event, and It was a pleasure meeting you there, and I'm happy to have you here today.
Yeah.
So, I'm Emmanuel, and I'm the CEO of Terahash Solutions. And I'd love to introduce you to the world of Bitcoin mining and show you a behind-the-scenes edit of what we're doing here.
Okay, so first of all, like back in the day, let's talk about sort of the history of mining a little bit, because now you're going to have to fill in some gaps in my knowledge here. But back in the day, in the early days of Bitcoin, you could mine it on just a regular computer. Is that right?
Absolutely. So back in the day, you could just have a laptop, have the Bitcoin algorithm run the software, and be mining up to 50 Bitcoin per day. Nowadays, things have changed. We've gone from CPUs to GPUs. Now we're mining with ASICs, and the world's completely changed. And in the future, we don't know what's at stake, whether it's going to be quantum computing or some other form of processing. We'll see how the industry evolves.
Yeah. So the CPU is just like the brain of a computer, and then someone figured out how to mine Bitcoin using the GPU, which is basically the graphics
card.
The graphics card.
Yeah.
Okay. And as I understand it, like that was a fairly big leap. Like the guy who figured out how to use a graphics card to do it was suddenly able to mine a lot more efficiently. Is that right? And earn a lot more Bitcoin for doing so?
Efficiently, it started costing a little bit more in electricity, but the amount of processing power that you got along with it was just game changing. So we were able to move from just mining on a simple computer to having entire units of graphics cards just mining away, and it really, really allowed the Bitcoin network to expand at a much more rapid pace.
Yeah. So mining, obviously, and as we're going along, Bitcoin is becoming more well known. The price is obviously starting to creep up, obviously with its kind of wild fluctuations that it had in those days. But the mining industry itself is starting to grow and get more sophisticated.
It is.
So, but then there was a big step up, wasn't there? And that's where one of these guys comes in. So what is this big lump of metal and fans and everything?
Sure. So this is an ASIC miner. It's an application-specific integrated circuit, which means it essentially is a computer built for one purpose: to mine Bitcoin.
Okay.
So this, for example, is just an S19 Pro, but there's a lot of different varieties and models, and we won't go into every single model, but the best models as of today are the S19K Pro for mining Bitcoin, or the L7 9.05 for mining Litecoin and Dogecoin.
Okay.
And it depends on what your goal is, essentially. Some people really want Dogecoin. Some people only care about Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And so we're able to kind of guide people and understand their goals, talk with them, let them know real market conditions, let them know what exactly is going on behind the scenes, and essentially explain the whole process to them.
Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about what you do. First of all, though, so this is, as you say, this is one purpose only. This is mining Bitcoin, and was an ASIC like? Could you do anything with it before, or has this just whole thing been like built from the ground up for this one purpose of mining Bitcoin?
So, as far as the history goes of an application-specific integrated circuit, I'm not completely sure, to be honest.
Okay.
I'm not sure about where it initially originated from. I just know from essentially when Bitmain took over the entire market and has been leading the market with their S series miners and their L7s and other miners that they're pushing out, like the KS3 M right now from Ice River is a big one. But as far as the most profitable miners in the world right now, they're all made by Bitmain.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you see footage of a mining farm and you see these like racks and racks of equipment, and maybe if you can hear it, can't you? It's loud and it's hot, but it's racks and racks of these guys.
Yes, and it essentially depends on what kind of cooling you have. So these are air-cooled miners. We also have immersion, which is completely silent, and then there's also hydro cooling. So hydro cooling is a little bit quieter, but it still has noise.
Right.
So you have those three options. You have hydro, you have immersion, and you have air-cooled. And right now we're doing air-cooled and immersion here in Dubai, and it's working out really, really good in this environment. Okay. And we're going to be introducing hydro as well.
Nice. Okay. So like in a nutshell, now this is obviously where things get kind of technical, but in a nutshell, what is one of these things doing? Like we say it's mining Bitcoin, but what is that process? What is actually happening?
Okay, so mining Bitcoin is essentially you have a miner and they're running software on an application-specific integrated circuit, and you're verifying transactions on the blockchain, and you are adding new blocks to the blockchain, so to the public ledger. And the public ledger is just every single transaction that has occurred ever since 2008.
Right.
So as a miner, you are verifying transactions, and you are essentially keeping the entire network secure. And for doing that, you are rewarded in Bitcoin. Every 10 minutes, a new block is added to the blockchain, and the Bitcoin network pays out transaction fees and network, the block reward, which is right now 6.25 Bitcoin. And in April, when we have the halving, it'll go down to 3.125.
Right.
And that'll be really, really game changing for the rest of the world.
Sorry to interrupt you folks, but I have to let you know about the Coin Bureau deals page. My team and I have been able to pull together some of the best promos and discounts in the whole crypto space. We're talking trading fee discounts of over 50%, thousands of dollars in bonus airdrops, amazing deals at top exchanges, reduced prices on hardware wallets, and much, much more besides. So just go to coinbureau.com/deals, also linked to below, and find the promo suited to you. Enjoy the rest of the video. Obviously, as you said, like you have a whole load of these running, that consumes a lot of power. Obviously, you've got to cool them as well. So there's some pretty big overheads. And obviously, miners are compensated for that with network fees, like you mentioned, and also this block reward as well.
Yes.
So when the halving happens and the block rewards is cut in half, what does that mean for miners then?
That means efficiency, and the cost per kilowatt hour of energy is going to be the most important factor. Really, when the cost of electricity for mining is the majority of your expense, it really is paramount that you're getting the most amount of terahash per joule.
Okay.
And so right now, with the halving approaching, we've been thinking about this for the last year. It's going to be all about efficiency. So we're telling our clients not to purchase older generation miners. We're telling them to purchase the new S21s that are coming out. They're 200 terahash versus, miners right now, S19K Pros are going for 120, 136 terahash. They have slightly better efficiency, power efficiency than their predecessors of S19J Pro Plus. But essentially, we're trying to tell everybody to upgrade their units, get S21s, or if they want altcoins, the L7s do fantastic. The halving was a few months ago. You don't have to worry about the halving as much. And it might even be to your favor to mine Litecoin and just auto-convert to Bitcoin. But for all you Bitcoiners out there, I prefer mining Bitcoin directly.
I'm sure many people have breathed a sigh of relief hearing that, Emmanuel. So all these different miners spread all over the world are kind of, they're kind of competing for each block, aren't they? As you say, there's a new block roughly every 10 minutes with its block reward, and every miner is kind of trying to get in on the act. But we were discussing off camera, like the actual mining industry itself is, quite collaborative. Is that fair to say?
Definitely. I mean, we definitely have quite a good relationship, person to person, business to business, and we're all trying to help each other and support the network as well. So we really open our cards and try to help each other out as much as we can. And at the end of the day, it is a competition, but we're in it together. And so, for example, back in the day, people used to just mine directly, and it got very, very difficult to actually earn a reward because more and more people were joining the network and securing the network. And then mining pools came out, and people were flocking to mining pools in order to essentially jump into a pool where the hash rate is a lot bigger and you're getting steady payouts instead of potentially hitting a block. So nowadays, we tell people, join a mining pool if you want more consistent income, or mine directly. That's another option. But nowadays, with the hash rate being extremely high, we're hitting all new time highs of hash rate every single day. Not every day, but about every month or so. It's getting increasingly difficult for people to mine directly, but it still happened. A few months ago, we saw that that person hit a block with an S19, I believe.
Wow, a single machine.
I believe it was just a single machine, yes.
That's amazing. So, okay, so I mean, you guys are kind of mining infrastructure. You provide. So if I say wanted to start my own mining operation, you guys sell these. You also help, you help with setup and everything like that. What do you guys? What else do you guys do?
We offer everything, A to Z. So if you want to start mining, just reach out to us. You can contact us on terahashsolutions.com. And essentially, you say, this is what I want to do. This is my budget. Help me out. And so you don't have to be an expert. That's where we come in. So we essentially do everything. We sell the miner. We host the miner. We repair the miner. And if you are done mining, we can sell your miner. So from A to Z, we got you covered. Okay.
And how long does one of these last? Because this is running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Yeah, so out of this, it depends on each model, but with Bitmain miners, you're looking at about 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
And really that's pushing it. So it depends obviously on the price of Bitcoin. When we had the last bull run, there were still S9s that were able to be profitable at all-time highs. But now those are going to be losing lots of money because of the inefficiency in power. But after about 5 years, you're looking at being obsolete. So I'd recommend to my clients about 4 years of mining. And after that, you should either be looking at selling those units or upgrading.
Okay.
Upgrading your units.
And can these get recycled? Because I think one of the things that one of the criticisms that people have made of Bitcoin mining, obviously it uses a lot of electricity, but there's a lot more to it than that. But I think another thing that people have said, there's a big turnover of equipment because it is, because there are new and more efficient ASICs hitting the market fairly regularly, and you need to kind of upgrade, and if you want to keep up, I guess.
Definitely.
Is there a way that old ones of these can get repurposed? What kind of happens with that?
Yeah, so there's different companies working on different solutions. We personally know of some companies that are refurbishing and then reusing, or taking them from, let's say, from being in a warehouse, mining 24 hours a day, to then taking it and putting it into a heater, or taking it and mining in a different way. So refurbishing it and then putting it into a different application, but still within the mining world.
Okay. And as you were saying earlier, Bitcoin mining has become way more efficient, hasn't it? It's Absolutely. These things, I guess the newer models are able to mine, more, or are able to produce more terahashes for less electrical input. They're more efficient.
Exactly. So for example, just a few years ago, the S19J Pro Plus 120 terahash came out, and we're going to be about let's say 3 years ago, about 30 joules per terahash.
Okay.
Now the new S21's coming out in January, release more or less. And that's 17.5 joules per terahash.
Wow.
So that's almost 100% better efficiency just from a few years. And that does a lot to your bottom line. It does a lot for your operation. And when the halving happens, it's going to be paramount that you have the most efficient miners running.
Yeah. And how distributed are miners? Are miners sort of purely going where the electricity is cheapest? We hear a lot about Bitcoin mining being concentrated in the United States, places like Texas.
Yes.
But I mean, do you find that your clients are sort of fairly concentrated like that, or do you have people all over the world doing this?
So it kind of depends on what model you're talking about, because you have institutions which are very centralized in a way, and they're essentially in a certain spot. They have big investors coming in and investing heavy amounts of money into this unit of hash rate. And then you have our kind of model where we're essentially trying to help as many people get into the Bitcoin mining space. And so it doesn't matter if you just want one machine, or you're a 200 machine order or 400 machine order, we can take care of you. And so what we're finding is, as miners, we're going to the cheapest electricity while also retaining safety, security, government support. That's why here in the UAE, it's a fantastic place to be mining, because you have low cost of electricity, stable grid, the government is supportive and it's regulated, and it's extremely safe. You don't have to worry about your miner getting stolen or some sort of event happening where you're going to lose your entire investment, or the government seizing all of your assets, like has happened in other countries. And I prefer to go to my facility, not worry. We don't have armed guards. It's a very relaxed place, and we have 24-hour security, of course, but it's not for the sake of outsiders. It's more for the sake of the miners itself.
Yeah, because I imagine there's so many moving parts to being a Bitcoin miner. I guess the last thing you want to be worrying about is sort of geopolitical factors, or whether your physical equipment is actually safe. There's so much else to consider, isn't there?
There's so many variables. I mean, when you're going into becoming a Bitcoin miner, electricity is just one part. Then it's about what kind of electricity rate you're going to get. Not only that, but also your equipment, the temperature in which it's operating at, the environment, whether it's humidity or whether it's the country, geopolitical events occurring. There's a lot of factors to consider, and let's not forget the big one is the price of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So it depends on the price of Bitcoin, whether you're going to be profitable or not. And there was a time during the bear market that a lot of miners did become unprofitable, and those clients shut off their machines because they were essentially running at a net loss. And instead of just continuing to run their miners at a loss, we allow them to shut off.
Yeah, because that was fascinating, wasn't it? Because there was a lot, especially I think at the beginning of this year, and I remember it being a bit of a theme last year as well, like the geopolitical instability that we've been seeing, like the conflict in Ukraine, for example. I think a lot of people were worried that that was going to push prices up way too much, push energy prices up way too much. Miners were going to have to start shutting off their machines. And obviously that lessens the security of the network. The fewer miners that there are on the network, the less secure it is.
Of course.
But it seems to have completely got past that. And as you say, hash rate is near all-time high. Yeah,
I haven't checked in a few days, but I believe we're at 52 exahash or so.
Wow. And I think this is a fascinating thing to think about, isn't it? Because as we're having this discussion, Bitcoin is sort of around 35K. And that's obviously as a result of all the speculation around spot ETFs, which may or may not be approved by the time people are watching this video.
Yeah.
But prior to that, it had been kind of languishing around 25, 26K. Obviously, the last year or so since the collapse of FTX has been bad, not just for Bitcoin, but for the whole industry.
Yeah.
And yet, even though prices have been way, way, way off all-time highs, hash rate has been climbing. There are more miners than ever committing more hash power than ever to the network.
Yeah, I believe it's because the people that are getting into mining look at it at a long-term vision. They look at it for the long haul, not just a short pump and dump or something that you just speculate on. Bitcoin's gone from being an emerging market to an established market, and we're seeing big players move in and say, hey, this is worth something, let's invest. And we're seeing the hash rate climb because more and more people are recognizing that, hey, perhaps having all of my money in fiat that is essentially issued by a central bank that has no limit and they can just print as much as they want from it, people are kind of saying, hey, there's an alternative currency that's not governed by a country and is not controlled. You know, people say it's manipulated, it can be pushed up or suppressed, but at the end of the day, it's supply and demand. There's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin ever, and the more people want it, the higher the price will climb, and if people don't want it, the price will fall.
Yeah.
But I believe that over the next year to 2 years, we're going to see some massive changes in the industry. And I think it's going to be not just about the price of Bitcoin, but just applications overall. And it's going to be exciting. I'm really excited for the future of Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's good to hear. And because when we were at that conference in Amsterdam, there were so many people there building, so many applications, as you say, to kind of work on top of Bitcoin. And it does seem like there is so much development happening in that ecosystem. But it's great to hear, it's great to think of it as a long-term asset as well, isn't it? Because I think, Bitcoin, crypto still has this sense of being, a get-rich-quick scheme. A lot of people seem to think that. Obviously, you can see some pretty wild price swings. People can still make a lot of money. But this discussion, it reinforces in me that this is a long-term thing. This is something that's not going away. This is something for the future. And I think it's a great way of kind of tying it to this idea that I think people still think that Bitcoin is kind of spun up out of nothing. And that's so far from the case, because there are people doing so much work. There are people committing electricity, energy in order to do this. And it's, in that way it's kind of similar to gold, isn't it? Because gold is hard to find. It's a scarce asset. Yeah. But Bitcoin kind of takes that one step further.
Exactly. And not only does it take it one step further, but it does something that gold can't do. And I love gold. Don't get me wrong. I think it has its place, and we've been using it for thousands of years, and I'm wearing some right now. I value it, but at the same time, you can't take more than $10,000 in gold with you on a plane or any sort of currency. Whereas, you have a ledger here in this country, you have another one in another country, or a Trezor or another cold storage wallet. You can have them all over the world, and you're able to move a vast amount of money and energy, because that's what money is. It's just energy. Yeah. Anywhere in the world without the need to ask permission of a country, government, or a third party like a bank. And to me that's the biggest selling factor for me. It was the fact that nobody controls this. It's just the people in a way. And sure, we're having institutions move in, we're having big players, whales move in, and there's a lot of true Bitcoiners that perhaps don't like that, but then at the same time, I know plenty of Bitcoiners that appreciate it. And I think the closer that we move to a world where we're having a separation of money and state, I think that's going to really do something for money as a whole, not just Bitcoin. Bitcoin's perhaps an item that is encompassing money as a whole. Mm-hmm. But I think over the last 50 years, since we went off the gold standard, we have essentially allowed money to become this endless amount of nothingness. Mm-hmm. And people don't have any sort of, when you think of money, people don't have a sense of this is worth something. It's just something that we're taught and that we trust because our government says so.
Yeah.
And I think with Bitcoin, it's saying, hey, we have proof of work. We have people with, at this point, billions of dollars in infrastructure around the world. And it's exciting. I think in the future, we're going to see some massive improvements in the word money. Yeah.
It's a paradigm shift, Bitcoin, isn't it? It's
totally.
changed everything.
Yeah.
It's a miraculous thing. And it all comes from one of these. Yeah, it's extraordinary. Well, Emmanuel, it's fascinating. I think, there's so many ins and outs to Bitcoin mining. It's such a dense topic, but I really appreciate you, throwing some light on it for us today.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
And it's just so cool to see one of these things in the flesh and just be like, that's inside there is where it all happens.
Yeah.
So thank you for today, and we'll leave links in the description where you can get to know more about what Emmanuel does, his business. We'll leave plenty of links down there for you guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you found it informative, and Emmanuel, thanks again. I really appreciate this, man.
If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. TerahashSolutions.com.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you guys again soon.